Now creating or sewing a collar with a stand, you might know it from men's shirt. We got 2 pieces for the stand, and of course interlining and one upon one of those, and the same about the top collar, 2 pieces and interlining on one of those as well. Of course I have prepared, I've sewn my shoulders, but I still got it all open because it's much easier to sew. Now the front and the back, we'll put that aside for a second, because what we're going to do at first is the top collar. The top collar, we place it right against right and pin it all the way, because now we're going to sew it together and finish that before we attach it to the stand. And I'm sewing here, not in this line, only up here, 1 centimeter of seam allowance. So now we'll just sew it together, 1 centimeter of seam allowance. Make sure you not make nice corners, because that's quite important to make it look really pointy. So now we've sewn it, the 2 pieces together. If you just turn it, there'll be too much fabric around the corner. So what I do is cut away the corner and a little bit outside as well, to make sure it can stay inside without being bumpy. Again, the other one, cut the corner and a little bit like this. Now it's time to turn the right side out. Of course, it might be necessary to make sure these are really folded out, but do it carefully, because there is not that much seam in here anymore, so you can easily destroy the corners. You could of course use your scissors as well, but again, be really careful how you do this, because we want the corners to be pointy, not flushed as such. So you see, now I've got my corners and I can iron this, and I will do. So I've got here 2 corners, and luckily they look alike. So let me just iron. So now it's ironed and it's like this, and the corners as well. Now I'm going to top stitch it before I attach my stand, and as usual I do my top stitch it from the top, and the top that's visible is always where I do not put my interlining, because for me it is different. People are saying it differently, but for me, I like the fabric to look as it was when I bought it, and the rest of the shirt to be the same. Sometimes putting on fusing change the fabric a little bit and make it more carbon like. So I always choose to say that the top collar is without fusing. Now top stitch it, and in this case 2mm from the edge, and again make sure you make nice corners so they look alike. And now we've got our top collar finished to put on. Now I got it like this, and again what is against me is my right side. Then I got this one, and now I place my collar upon the stand. This here is up, and that's where you're going to attach it. The other way for the neckline. So first of all, I'm going to find center back of my collar. I'm going to find center back on my stand. And of course these things can be done when you do the cutting by making a small notch. Now place it here. Put it in line all the way. This is just the one part of it, because I would like this collar to be placed in between on my stand. So now I'm going to place that as well. So I put it upon and remove my pins to the top. And of course I do that all the way. Still make sure it's in line. Edges are fitted, and make sure it fits here in the front like that. So now we've got our collar here in between of these layers, and I sew it all the way 1 centimeter, and then we have more or less done our collar. So let's do that. Now if we turn it around, you'll see that we more or less got our collar finished. There is just one thing, is here at the rounding there can be too much fabric. So once again I cut it a little bit, because then there is the space for the fabric and it will look nice. Now I just need to iron this to make sure it looks right. Now it's ironed, and you see you got the top collar and we got the bottom. Now it's time to put it on our shirt. Again I start finding the center back to make sure I got the point to sew to. I'll do exactly the same at my shirt. Find the center back. Now this one here that I've chosen to make is with this facing all in one. It can be different, but then you have to look into some of the tips and tricks, because then you can do it differently here in the front. You can come back to that later. Now placing this, remember this side where there's no fusing is the upper side. So now I place at center back, start doing that, and then I place it to the front, to the center front. And now this one here goes all the way to the extension, because Here I got center front, but this one is extension for button and buttonholes. So I place it and place it to the shoulder, both layers in line, and now I take this facing part and fold it back so my collar is placed in between of layers. I do that only to the shoulder, and of course it's quite important that you make sure there are no foldings. So I do like this, and I got it. Now sew it 1 centimeter from the folding up front, and all the time I'm checking that there is no extra foldings below or on top. When I go up here, I stop 1 centimeter from that edge, which is my shoulder. Turning this, I got a nice edge here, so I got a nice way, and my shirt will look like this. So I got it really beautiful here. The other way, the other side, I'm doing exactly the same. So let's take it once again, place it to this middle notch because that's where my extension goes. Place it, place both layers to the shoulder, fold my facing back, so, and remove my pins so the collar is between of layers, and that I do assure there is no foldings. So now sewing this piece here, 1 centimeter of seam allowance. And turn the right side out, and again got a nice collar. Now we're just going to do the back, the center back. I do that in two because I don't want my seam to be seen, so I open up and attach it here in here from last stitch to last stitch, first or last stitch, all depending on how you made it, but I stitch it in here. Again, make sure you do not have any foldings. Now we attached it at center back. Now it's time to fold the seams up into the collar, but we can't do that because of this. So what we're going to do is make a small cut. So we make a cut here to the last first stitch, through all layers except for this one. Let's see. My sister is not that happy about this, but let's see if we take it separately. Yeah, that's better. Now it's possible to fold it up into the collar and fold your seam allowance. You see, I can put it up here like that. So I can cover my seam at the back. Like this, and then it's covered. Now I'm stitching it 2 mm from the edge here. From shoulder to shoulder. And now you can see that we got it nicely. We got the back nicely, we got this, but you might also see it seems a little bit too short. So I open up here, and now I can do a few cuttings through all the seams, through all the layer of seams, and that's going to help me to fold the right side out and not have it look as if it's too short. That's the way. Now because I don't want this just to hanging like this, I can place it like this in edge and stitch it here in the shadow of the seam, though then it won't be seen. And I'm just going to do that. And then I got my collar. Now it's all up to me to make a stitching. While I'm doing it at this time is because then I can do it all in one, the front and the top stitching up here as well. But again, now we are moving to something that has to do with the design. But if you look at the color, this is really nice shirt collar. The finish of this is different if you've got the placard. So you've got to find somewhere else at the web page where you can see how to do that, but it is described as well. Did you like what you just seen, and do you want to learn more? Then subscribe. I'll constantly develop and upload new things, all based upon the professional way of sewing. All the best from me, and good luck with your work.